YouTube.
Joy
Okay.
sir, please take over.
Okay. So let us call the meeting call to order. Pawan, flag salutation.
Flag salutation. We, the
By
members of Indian Medical Association, stand here. Members of Indian Medical Association stand here to salute our national flag. Its honor and glory shall be our light and strength, and its code shall be our force. We pledge our allegiance to it, and realizing our responsibilities as the accredited members of this national organization, we swear we will dedicate everything in our power to see it fly high in the comity of nations. Jai Hind.
yeah. Now, respected State Secretary Dr. P Gopikumar, State Joint Secretary Dr. Jain Chimmen, our Treasurer, our Secretary Dr. Pawan Madhusudan, Treasurer Dr. Joseph George, IPP Dr. Nivin, PP Dr. Govindangudi sir, today's speaker Dr. Manoj Therayil, Consultant Psychiatrist and Psychotherapist, Director INMIND Thrissur, Dr. Srivilasan, State leaders and other respected state leaders and members coming from other branches, and my dear friends and colleagues. Good evening and a warm welcome to you all. Today is our last GB meeting for the IMA year 2019-20. We had our last physical meeting in March. After the lockdown was implemented, we were we are forced to continue our meetings and scientific sections on online virtual platform. In the given scenario, as the COVID-19 is spreading like a wildfire, we have to continue online meetings indefinitely, though the government has allowed up to 100 participants from the 21st of September. But as the virus is unaware of this number, and many of our regular members are above the age of 60, we have got no other way out but to continue with the online platform. We have planned the installation of office barriers for the new year 2020-21 on online virtual Zoom platform on Saturday 3rd October. Pro Vice Chancellor of KUHAS, Dr. Vijayan will be the chief guest, and IMA State President Dr. Abraham Margis has consented to be the installation officer. We also will be observing World Heart Day on 29th September with the in association with the Cardiac Society of Thrissur under the leadership of Dr. P. Mohanan and Dr. Govindanunni, Dr. Givar Sakriya with a panel discussion. We are also planning a cultural program by our cultural wing on a virtual stage in the first half of October. We have already invited interested parties to send their videos and all, or to be ready for the shooting of the cultural programs like music, skit, dance, and etc. That's all. And in a COVID ഇങ്ങനെ spread ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. Today we had 604 cases. I myself have seen 18 ILI cases today. Must be all of you are must be seeing such cases. So we have to be very careful. Every patient looks like a COVID patient. So take care, practice safely with iSafe protocol. IMAയുടെ ഐസേഫ് നെറ്റ്വർക്ക് ഉണ്ട്. അതിൻ്റെ ഭാഗമായിട്ട് ലോജിസ്റ്റിക്കൊക്കെ കൊടുക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. അതിൻ്റെ കൂട്ടത്തിൽ ട്രെയിനിങ് സെഷൻസ് കൊടുക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. വി ഹാഡ് എ ട്രെയിനിങ് സെഷൻ ടുഡേ ആൾസോ, ബട്ട് ദ പാർട്ടിസിപ്പൻസ് ഫ്രം അവർ ബ്രാഞ്ച് വാസ് റിയലി ഡെസ്പറേറ്റ്. വെരി ഫ്യൂ ഓഫ് ദം എന്ന് പറയാം, വിരലിലുണ്ടാവുന്നവർ മാത്രമേ such a big branch of ours, 1,700 members are there, less than 10 people participated. ഞാൻ എല്ലാ ഗ്രൂപ്പുകളിലും ഇട്ടുണ്ടായിരുന്നു, ഇന്ന് രാവിലെ ഇട്ടുണ്ടായിരുന്നു, but nobody seems to be bothered. It was a wonderful classes today by Dr. Chandini, HOD from Calicut Medical College, and J.K. Jayakrishnan and R.C. Srikumar. So അത് റിപ്പീറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് കാണിക്കുന്നതാണ് നെക്സ്റ്റ് മൺഡേ. അതിൻ്റെ ലിങ്ക് അയച്ചു തരാം. ഹോപ്പ് everybody will take it serious and join the meeting. And I request all private doctors, those who are practicing or small and medium hospitals, are requested to join the iSafe network. അതിനൊന്നുമില്ല, അത് അതിനൊരു ഫോമാറ്റ് അപ്ലിക്കേഷൻ ഫോം ഞാൻ വാട്സപ്പിൽ ഇട്ടുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. അതിൻ്റെ ഡിസ്ട്രിക്ട് കൺവീനർ ഞാൻ തന്നെയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അത് ഫില്ല് ചെയ്തിട്ട് എനിക്ക് അയച്ചു തന്നാൽ മതി. ഐ വിൽ ഡു ദ റെസ്റ്റ്. കുറച്ച് ഫ്രീ ഐറ്റംസ് ഒക്കെ അതിൻ്റെ കൂട്ടത്തിൽ കിട്ടുന്നുണ്ട് മെമ്പേഴ്സിന്. അതിൻ്റെ പ്രോട്ടോകോൾസ് അനുസരിച്ച് പ്രാക്ടീസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് മാത്രം. സ്മോൾ ആൻഡ് മീഡിയം ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻസ് ക്യാൻ ആൾസോ അപ്ലൈ ഫോർ ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷണൽ മെമ്പർഷിപ്പ്. അതാണ് ഐസേഫിനെ കുറിച്ച് പറയാനുള്ളത്. പിന്നെ എല്ലാവരോടും ടേക്ക് കെയർ, ടേക്ക് ഓൾ ദ പ്രിക്കോഷൻസ്, ഓൾ PPE, യൂസ് സേഫ് ഡിസ്റ്റൻസ്. ഈ കാര്യങ്ങളാണ് പറയാനുള്ളത്. നൗ ഐ ഇൻവൈറ്റ് Dr. P Gopikumar, State Secretary, for his address.
Thank you, Joy. Good evening, President of IMA Thrissur, Dr. Joy, Secretary Dr. Pavan, State Joint Secretary Dr. Jain, Senior IMA Leader Dr. Srivilasan, and Senior IMA Leaders of Thrissur Branch, KSR Menon Sir, Prakashan Sir, and other senior members of IMA Thrissur. Very good evening. Today we are commemorating the Suicide Prevention Day, though it was on 10th of September. Because of various other activities, we had to postpone a little bit. But again, this is a very valid topic, and we have none other than Dr. Manoj, my good friend and our own member, as the biggest speaker today. Welcome, Manoj, for this wonderful session. And now, as you are aware, Kerala is, we can say, the capital of suicide, because there are a lot number of suicides. Now with the COVID era, the causes of suicide might have multiplied, because this COVID pandemic has changed everything, every lifestyle, every activity, every job, everything has been overturned, and we have to have a new way of normal life. So that has made many of them unemployed, many of them homeless, so on and so forth. So the stress factor the COVID has brought into the lives of we, the common people, is huge, very huge. And I think the post-COVID scenario, the post-COVID mental status is having a very, very, very deleterious effect, I think, on most of the people. Even with those who have already had COVID disease, or even those who are yet to have COVID disease, the stress factor has multiplied very much. So this is a very particular or this is very pertinent topic at this point of time. And I think we will analyze the common factors of suicide and its prevention part, along with the new COVID scenario. I think that will be discussed in detail in this particular webinar. And I think many of our members have joined, but I can see now 38 members participating in this, but probably others will be joining soon. And I should congratulate President Joy and Secretary Pavan, because even in this COVID era, IMA Thrissur have been very active and have been conducting various programs, including virtual platform on all branches and all aspects of Indian Medical Association, be it academic, be it cultural, be it otherwise. Every on every this thing, the IMA Thrissur had a meeting, had a topic. So Congratulating once again the team leaders of IMA Thrissur branch, and wishing you all the very best, and a very warm welcome again to Dr. Manoj to Thrissur. Thank you. Jai Hind, JAM.
Thank you, Dr. Gopikumar. Now I invite Dr. Jain Chimmen for his address.
Thank you, President Dr. Joy, sir. Senior leaders of IMA Thrissur branch, senior leaders of other branches, and today's guest speaker, Dr. Manoj. State Secretary, Indengil, Joint Secretary, role. We are lucky to have State Secretary as our own member. So he has gone through all that I have to say. But one thing I like to add, because I would like to again congratulate Thrissur branch for the excellent job they are doing. Last 21st September, we had commemorated the Dementia Day, and we had a very good webinar on that. I should also by CGP branch of IMA Thrissur, and the cultural program by WDW last month was excellent. It was flawless, conducted in a very, very professional manner, and all the competitions were excellent. Actually, നമ്മളൊരു നേരിട്ട് നടത്തിയിരുന്ന പ്രോഗ്രാമിനേലും വളരെ നന്നായിട്ടായിരുന്നു ഒരു വെർച്വൽ പ്ലാറ്റ്ഫോമിൽ നടത്താൻ പറ്റിയത്. I congratulate the WDWD leaders for the excellent program they had conducted last month, and also the CGP leaders for coming out with a webinar last week. So Thrissur is again on the forefront in all the activities, and again in a virtual platform we are going to come out again with a cultural program. So I wish all success for today's webinar. One thing I would like to add, COVID patients, there are a lot of, as State Secretary said, there are a lot of suicide happening in COVID patients. And now the number of COVID patients are on the rise, and number of patients who have recovered from COVID is also on the rise. And now we are going to face, as professionals, we are going to face post-COVID sick leave. So we should also always be aware what is happening after post-COVID to the COVID negative patients. I think Manoj will be dealing with that also. I wish all success for today's webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jain Chimmen. Now I invite Dr. Pawan for the minutes of the previous meeting and activities for the last month. Over to you, Dr. Pawan.
Yes, respected President, or State Secretary and State Joint Secretary, leaders from other branches, our immediate past President of IMA Kerala, Dr. Sugadan sir, other senior members, our guest speaker of the day, Dr. Manoj, and dear friends. തുടങ്ങുന്നതിന് മുൻപ് ഒരിക്കൽ കൂടി ഞാൻ നമ്മുടെ സ്റ്റേറ്റ് സെക്രട്ടറി ഗോപികുമാർ സാറിനും ജോയിന്റ് സെക്രട്ടറി ഡോക്ടർ ജെയിനും പ്രത്യേകമായിട്ട് നന്ദി പറയുന്നു. ഞങ്ങൾ ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഒരു അവസരത്തിൽ മാക്സിമം ആക്റ്റീവായി നിൽക്കാൻ ശ്രമിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. അത് നിങ്ങൾ റെക്കഗ്നൈസ് ചെയ്യുന്നതിൽ വളരെയധികം സന്തോഷമുണ്ട്. So I shall present the minutes and activities for the last month. Last month we conducted the general body meeting and scientific session on 28th, and it was conducted on 28th Friday, August 2020 at 7:30 p.m. through Zoom app. Dr. Joy presided the meeting and he welcomed the members. Dr. Pawan, that is myself, secretary, presented the minutes and activities of the previous month, and it was passed. State Secretary Dr. Gopikumar and Dr. Jain Chimmen, Joint Secretary, addressed the gathering. Dr. Santosh Babu, who is our member and who is a senior medical consultant at NIPMER, National Institute of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation, he gave a scientific session on COVID-19 respiratory protection option for doctors. It was a very useful talk. It was followed by a very active participation from our members. And another declaration during the general body meeting was regarding the new office continuation of the term of the present existing office bearers of IMA Thrissur for the next 2020-21 term, which was unanimously passed during the executive committee meeting. Then last month we organized a CME for the hospital infection prevention and safety of healthcare personnel, which was on 7th of September. And IMA Thrissur, along with iSafe Network Thrissur District, conducted CME on Monday 7th, which was also an online meeting. And Dr. KJ Reena, our Thrissur DMO, she inaugurated the meeting. Dr. Jain Chimmen, State Joint Secretary, addressed the gathering. we had Dr. R.C. Srikumar and Dr. A.V. Jayakrishnan from IMA Kerala State as faculties. And it was a very successful meeting, which was attended by around 300 participants from most of the private hospitals in Thrissur. Then we also participated in the IMA Thrissur collector and DMO Thrissur convened an emergency Zoom meeting with the private hospitals and IMA Thrissur regarding the COVID scenario, and which was regarding the participation of private hospitals in managing COVID cases. DMO categorically said all private hospitals should keep around 20% of their total bed to reserve COVID-19 patients. IMA Thrissur assured all support and promised to conduct continuous training programs and weekly sessions for doctors in all the private hospitals. And the meeting was attended by most of the directors or representatives from 54 private hospitals. And we also raised our, shared our suggestions with the district administration during the meeting. Then IMA AMS Thrissur conducted a CME on COVID-19 primary care management on September 12th. That meeting was inaugurated by Dr. K. Mohanan, our Vice Chancellor of KUHAS. And it was followed by a release of our e-magazine, which is the first time we are releasing an e-magazine, Mashipuram. The magazine was released by our State Secretary, Dr. P. Gopikumar, in the presence of Dr. Jain, Chimmen, State Joint Secretary, and Dr. Shyam Sundar, who is a physician at General Hospital Trivandrum. He moderated the scientific session taken by Dr. Sabu Varghese, a physician from USA, Brookdale University Medical Center. And he gave an excellent talk on COVID situation in states. And Dr. Jacob K. Jacob, Professor of Internal Medicine of Government Medical College Ernakulam, was another faculty during the session. Then IMA WD Women's Wing, as Dr. Jain already mentioned, they organized an excellent session, excellent program in relation to the Onam celebration, which was on 13th of September. The program was organized by the WDW chairperson, Dr. Shobana Mohandas, and fully supported by the convener of WDW, Dr. Abhaya. Lady members actively and other families also, their families also actively participated during the event. And the meeting was attended by Dr. Kavita Ravi, chairperson of IMA WDW Kerala State, and the convener, Dr. Rajalakshmi from Midzone. It was followed by various competitions like Andakshari, Kadangada, and prizes were also declared. There was good participation from the members. Another program was an online training program for Protect the Protectors. It was on September 14th. It was conducted on WebEx online platform. It was specially conducted for the police department, as requested by DGP for the police academy and as well as for the other policemen. It was well attended by a lot of police officials all around the state. And Dr. Joy Manjila presided the meeting, and myself and Dr. Paurmai were the speakers, and we gave a session on the COVID protocols for the police as paid by the IMA Kerala State. Then, as you know, we have been supporting the all our members and doctors regarding the safety measures to be followed for managing the COVID cases. As a part of that, we have associated with IMA PEPS for arranging 3M mask. 3M mask initiative is the initiative by IMA PEPS, and we are along with them. We are supporting them in supplying all the 3M masks to our members, and we have been able to handle a huge number of orders through IMA with the help of IMA PEPS. Then we are continuing the quarantine facility for doctors at Garuda Hotel. Like during the last meeting, we had mentioned that we have arranged a primary contact isolation center for our members at Garuda Hotel at special rate, exclusively for IMA Thrissur members, which includes 3-time vegetarian food, internet connection, and a double room optional, which we are still continuing, which can be utilized by our members. Another program we organized was regarding the insurance policy for our doctors, which includes both Corona Kavach and Corona Rakshak policies. Corona Kavach policy is still continuing. A lot of members have already joined, and those who wish to join further, they can opt for Corona Kavach, which will be handled by IMA Thrissur for joining. Then Doctors Fitness Club of IMA Thrissur, which is a very active club led by Dr. Manoj and Mrs. Pooja Manoj. They are actively conducting the program regularly without any break, and they are organizing it through Zoom, and which usually lasts for about 1 hour. Then we had the State Council meeting, which was a very important meeting, which was held on September 16th. President Dr. Joy and myself, we both participated along with Dr. CJ Andrews, our State Working Committee member. State Secretary Dr. P Gopikumar, State Joint Secretary Dr. Jain, Chimmen, who are our members, they also were present in the meeting. Then we had a CME on management of mortal remains of COVID-19 victims. It was conducted on Thursday, September 17th. Deputy DMO Dr. Sadish was the chief guest, and he inaugurated the session. Dr. Jain Chimmen addressed the gathering, and we had Dr. Manu, assistant professor and police surgeon from Government Medical College Thrissur as the faculty. That was also a well-attended program, which was very useful for a lot of doctors. And we conducted an executive committee meeting on 19th. Dr. Joy, he welcomed the gathering and elaborated the COVID-19 pandemic control measures taken by our branch, including multiple awareness sessions for our members, healthcare workers, police personnel, and public. Then then the involvement in coordinating with the DMO for sourcing PP kits through IMA PEPs, then organizing IMA ambulance service for shifting COVID-19 positive cases, etc. Then the executive committee also decided to conduct the installation ceremony, which is coming on October 3rd, 2020. Then we had IMA CGP meeting, World Alzheimer's Day commemoration on 21st September. We had chief guest Dr. Joy Manjila, past president of IMA Kerala State, and he's also the honorable Secretary General of World Psychiatric Association. The session was inaugurated by our state secretary. State Joint Secretary was also present. We had Dr. VG Pradeep Kumar, the past president of IMA Kerala, as one of our faculties, and we had Dr. Vivek Matthew, who is HOD at CMC Vellore, who was another faculty, and the talk was moderated by Dr. PC Gilvas, HOD of Neurology Department at Jubilee Mission Thrissur. Then yesterday, on September 24th, we organized an infection control program for Guruvayur Devasam Board. The speakers were Dr. Joy Manjila, our president, and myself, and Dr. Paurmi was also present, and we explained regarding all the COVID prevention protocols made by IMA Kerala along in association with the IMA in association with the Kerala state. And we explained all the protocols, which was very well taken by the members. So that's all regarding the minutes and activities of last month. Over to Dr. Joy.
Minse, can we pass the minutes? Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, okay. Thank you. Now we will go to the next program. Our today's along with the GB, we are celebrating the Suicide Prevention Day, World Suicide Prevention Day. Our today's speaker is Dr. Manoj Therayil, our own member, who is also a psychiatrist and psychotherapist and director INMIND Thrissur. Now a warm welcome to you, Dr. Manoj, and I invite you for your talk. Please unmute and talk. Please unmute your phone. Okay. Pavan, share screen share and then
Yes. Enabled.
Yeah. Can you see the slides, Pawan, now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much, Dr. Joy Manjila and Dr. Pawan Madhusudan for inviting me. I'm a member of our branch. I haven't actually been able to participate in any of the activities this year. I hope that since I'm back in Kerala, we will be able to meet in person soon and work with the branch. And respected Dr. Gopikumar, respected Jain, Chimmen, state leaders, and colleagues and friends. September is the month for suicide awareness worldwide. Even though we have a specific day, the entire month is dedicated to discuss about suicide. And today I want to make a point that suicide is a major public health emergency in Kerala. And this is the place I work.
It is 20 hours.
We shall overcome someday. That is the byline of INMIND. So suicide is one of the most complex human acts. It is difficult to understand. It is difficult to predict. It is often difficult to prevent, at least in some cases. The psychic pain that individuals are undergoing is enormous. And often I have felt that in our medical training, in general practice, and in practice in general. Hello. We
can hear you.
Okay, we are not trained very well to understand or detect psychic pain. We pick up on physical pain easily and we communicate our physical pain easily, but psychic pain is something that we all find it difficult to communicate to others. That is why sometimes within a house, people tell us that they had no clue that this person was, person has decided or person has acted on their suicidal ideas, and it is really, really revealing that how much psychic pain people are going through and how much is not actually communicated to others. And each suicide has got lifelong impact on others. I would say that when I was doing medicine in the early years of training at Calicut, one of my friends committed suicide. And I was one of the friends who actually had to see what was the act. And that night and that trauma and that pain has remained in me all the time. I even become tearful even now when I remember that day and the loss. So each suicide has greater impact for many, many years on many people around that person. And the economic cost of suicide is huge. I will show you some statistics, which is really, eye-opening. And suicide in Kerala is poorly understood. Even though we have been on the top of the charts for more than 50 years in a row, almost, third or fourth. But among the states, for major part of the last 50 years, Kerala has actually stood the top of among the states. Only Andaman Nicobar Islands and Puducherry, that is Pondicherry, as union territories, has actually been on the top. Had more rate than in Kerala, and it is really unpredictable. Suicide is really, really unpredictable. And that is something that we need to come back to. Because if it is so unpredictable, what are we going to do? So in India, every hour, the time that we might discuss this topic, 24 individuals would have taken their lives. 24 individuals in India would have ended their life by the time we finish this discussion in an hour. And the national statistics by the Crime Records Bureau, even now, that is the only way of understanding what is happening with our people. How many people are actually taking their lives is the crime records data. In India, there is no database no surveillance no collection of data on suicide other than through the police department, because suicide was a crime. And only recently, in 2017, it was actually removed from that position. So still, even for the data in 2019, we have to go to the Crime Records Bureau to get the data. So it is the police who is actually policing or doing the surveillance on suicide data. So you could imagine what could be the quality of data we are getting. And that is why the national suicide rate is 10.6, which is almost a global average or less than that. But a recent study published in Lancet showed that it is all, 10.6 is absolutely the dubious data. Real data shows our suicide rate is around 17.6. So instead of what the government of India through the Crime Records Bureau tell us about 1.3 lakhs committing suicide, we have 2.3 lakhs of people committing suicide every year. And we know that of the global suicide of women, nearly 40% is occurring in India. Of the global suicide, nearly 40% is occurring in India. And there is a huge variation between Indian states, tenfold for women and sixfold for men. And the fact remains that it is really the leading cause of death between the age group 15 and 39. That is really, really something that we need to take home. The leading cause of death among the 15 to 39 is suicide now. And the economic cost to the society, I will come to that. So in Kerala, in 2019, by the Crime Records Bureau statistics, 8,556 people died of suicide. We don't use the word committed because committed comes from our culture of seeing suicide as a crime. We use that without thinking about the notions behind that. So we could say 8,556 individuals died of suicide in 2019. So in the last 30 years, 2.6 lakhs of Keralites died of suicide. So by the statistics of one suicide, behind every successful suicide, there is at least 20 to 30 serious attempts. I'm not talking about the superficial cutting among the teenagers. This is serious attempts on the life, 20 to 30 times. So we know that more than 5 lakhs would have attempted to die by suicide by this time. So this is based on the official rate. Can we rely on this? Why don't we have any research on this? Why don't we have any good population studies? Why don't we, at least in Kerala, set up a surveillance system? We have been asking these questions for long. 2 large studies from Tamil Nadu show that actual figures are 6 to 9 times the official figure. So if that is the case, we are sitting on a real public health emergency. And many suicides in India are accounted as accidental deaths. And many missing persons. In India, there are around 3.5 lakhs of people missing every year. In Kerala, around 12,000 people miss. And Kerala police is wonderful, I have to say. 94% of them are traced within the same year. And around 700 people are lost to follow up, they can't find where they are. And often from global statistics, we know that when people are missing for an year, and if they cannot be traced in an year, the very likelihood is that one likelihood is very common scenario is they would have ended their life somewhere else in the country without anybody knowing. So that also we need to take into account. And how is the death registration system in our, even in Kerala, which actually boasts of almost 98% of deaths are registered. But when it comes to the community registration, there is no need for a medical certificate. Most of the time, it is the ward councillor who agrees that it was a death. And we know that many suicides happen in the severe and chronically physically ill people, especially in the elderly. How do we know that the stigma of suicide is actually making at least some families to report them as natural death after having a physical illness? Who can actually verify those facts? So in Kerala, we have around 2.3 lakhs of deaths registered every year. 2.3 lakhs of deaths every year. Out of that, only 8,000 is suicide. So it's actually a rare event in that sense. But we need to look at all these, observations like, is the official statistics reliable? If it is 6 to 9 times, what are we considering? What are the numbers we are looking at? And when we add other missing elements, the suicide actually could be much, much higher. That is the global scenario as well. So how much is a life worth? That's a very, statistical question in that sense. And a life cannot be measured in the money. We all know that. We all know that. And we all, we don't, as healthcare practitioners, don't want to put a money value on a person's life. But there is a need for, when there is an environmental catastrophe, for the government to release money. There is a system, value of statistical life, VSL. VSL comes from, of course, from American traditions of calculating life's worth in terms of money. And that is the estimate of willingness to pay for small reduction in mortality. The people participating in this national survey would be asked, if you were not, in that group of people who are going to die, or it will be, your risk will be reduced by this percentage, how much money would you put that for? So they calculate that in that way. So in India, few studies has looked at the cost of human life, and one is put it as 15 million INR in 2007 and around 45 million INR in recent times, 2018. You can compare that with Sweden with 2.4 million euros and America with the 10 million US dollars. One study that has looked at net cost of suicide to India has given a staggering figure, 149,313.9 trillion Indian rupees. You need to compare this huge amount. I can't imagine this number. So what I did was I compared that with the health expenditure. That is a public health expenditure by government of all the states and union territories together in 2018 was only 1.58 trillion Indian rupees. So this is 100,000, 100,000 times the health expenditure, public health expenditure of India 1 year. That is the total cost of suicide. I know that these publications has got limitations and their modeling, we would have some difference of opinion, but it is true that the cost of suicide to the society in terms of money is huge. And each rupee, if you are investing in mental health, in the appropriate robust systems, it will bring, maybe 100 times or 1,000 times return to the society. That is how we look at the economic benefits of programs. And this October, where we have the World Mental Health Day, is on parity for mental health, equality for mental health, more investment for mental health. So if you look at the suicide in the Kerala scene, I put this graph for the last 30 years. Around 8,000. And that also has been changing as well. And in the last 3 years, there has been a peak as well. And if you look at the suicide rates in the same period compared with the national average is the yellow one. I don't know whether you can see it very well, but it is on the 10, around 10.6. That area, it is hovering around that area. But our suicide rate is almost 2.5 times. It has touched 30 in 89 and 90, and then it has gradually decreased. And we are seeing the graph going up. And the prediction, as Gopikumar sir and everybody was talking about, the prediction with the economic recession we will be facing is the suicide rates are going to go up significantly. So what are the causes as per the data we have today? What is causing suicide in Kerala? What are the contributing factors? Family problems come to 42%. So family problems could be anything, which is a very, very broad term of family problems. But you have to say that property dispute doesn't come in that. Family problems secondary to, a couple having infertility doesn't come into that. And lot of social reputation problems. If somebody's social reputation has gone down, a shame has fallen on the family, that doesn't come on. So it is the other kinds of interpersonal problems, mainly recorded as family problems. That is the 42%. So you can at one glance say that Kerala, half of the suicides are family in origin or family problem related. And you can look at the other causes of suicide, like, just going back. Illness. Illness contributes to 1/5, 22% of illness. This illness can be subcategorized Around 1,000 is mental illness, and other illness like paralysis, cancer, chronic illness. We know that when there is chronic physical illness, debilitating illness, chronic pain, and paralysis, these are conditions which make people unhappy with their life and push people down the depression route or the desperate route to take their own lives. So you can look at the third one is addiction. That also comes around 10%. Contributing factor is addiction. We know that alcohol is a big problem in Kerala, and it is continuing to be a big problem despite all the recent restrictions secondary to COVID. It is continuing. Bankruptcy, love affairs, marriage, death of dear ones, all these contribute to. So you can see that because we have to believe that this is the police records. It is not a clinical study or anything. But still, we can glean some idea that most suicides in the local community, among the people, neighbors, etc., is understood as, or themselves, the family members, they understood as family problem, originating in family problem, originating in the loss of a dear one, problems in the marriage, problems in romantic relationship, problems in social reputation, so problems in fall in social reputation or bankruptcy. So this is the social context of social contributive factors. Then there is the issue of addiction and physical as well as mental illness contributing. So within the illness categories, half of it is categorized as mental illness. We need to know that when police is doing the data collection with various reports, each suicide, I have gone through some of the police reports. Each suicide, they have around 400 pages of various kinds of reports. So it is in some way robust, even though it is not standardized across police stations. It is not collected with good training. I can see that there are the scaffolding for a good surveillance system within the police. So mental illness contributes 50%, cancer to 10%, 11%, paralysis 2.8, other illness 35. So this is of importance to all of us practicing medicine, different specialties. It is important that physical illness, chronic physical illness is a risk factor. And who is committing suicide in Kerala? And sometimes in newspapers, the more educated or more the celebrity, that becomes the hot topic, making a notion that it is the highly educated, people in the higher position who are stressed are committing or dying by suicide. But on the other way, it is just opposite that scenario. It is the daily wage earners. 1/3 is daily wage earners in Kerala who are dying by suicide, and the unemployed. Well, 23% is unemployed. And of course, housewives contribute to, a big chunk of women, educated women are housewives. So they do contribute to that. Self-employed. So, and students, 5%. There has been around 418 student suicide in last year. So we can see that it is the lower end of the social position with the daily wage earners and unemployed and self-employed are the ones who die by suicide more often. And if you look at the income category, Government of India has classified that into less than 1 lakh Indian rupees per year, and 68% of those who suicide come in that category. So this lower social position is somehow contributing significantly to the human tragedy. So there are lots of theories around how lower social position within an egalitarian society like Kerala, I would put that in inverted comma, how the social conflicts and how social comparison, how it can be the feelings of inferiority within the context of the hopes and dreams of an egalitarian society can cause more damage than we could otherwise think. So if you look at the education as well, it also tells us the same story. Up to 10th standard, 40% of are up to 10th standard. If you look at graduates and above, there is only less than 4%, in that area. Despite we have a good proportion of Keralites meeting that graduates and above mark. So it is the lower educated, lower income, lower jobs individuals in our society who is dying, disproportionately dying. So it is that is in a way a class issue, a social position issue, an economic issue, and a cultural issue. Of course, you can look at most in this age group. The age group we are considering is more married people are there, and 77% of those who died by suicide were married. What are the methods used in Kerala? Of course, in India, as comparable to India, 75% is hanging, die by hanging, and this makes a difficult situation, because in many places where if the pills are being used, for example, in many countries they have used legal measures to control the use of paracetamol. In UK, paracetamol control itself has actually been a contributor, a good factor to reduce the suicide. But here, majority of suicide, the vast majority is through hanging. Poison comes to around 11%. Mainly the poison is around the insecticides. Drowning and self-immolation. You can see that among women, drowning, self-immolation, 225 died of suicide by self-immolation compared to 98 male, even though male-female ratio is 1.7 to 1. There is a disproportionately higher number of women dying by self-immolation, which also is a cultural prototype there. And train and moving vehicles, and that gives us some idea of where to do some prevention. So globally, there are a lot of bright examples where countries has identified hotspots. Some of the bridges, some of the railway gates are hotspots, and they have put extra remedial measures, extra preventive measures to prevent people dying by suicide. Even if you could put a board saying helpline, are you distressed? Are you in emotional trouble? Please ring us before you do something. Just a poster like that on the hotspot areas reduces suicide, at least in that area, significantly. Of course, sleeping pills and poison, we could think of what are we doing with the legal measures to control the access to these kind of insecticides? How can we make it more safe? Of course, some of the, especially with the hanging, there are limitations. We could discuss that. So I'm coming to the second part. Why do we have more suicide? Of course, we use more alcohol. There are more people who have alcohol dependence, perhaps. And average age of consumption of alcohol has been declining over the years. Now it is age 12. At the average age at which a Keralite start drinking is 12 now. And 13% of the population have mental illness requiring intervention. So mental illness diagnosis or that needs to be treated has been 13%. We need to mind that there is a lot of other proportion of people who have mental health problems who are not actually coming to the service. So this is the population survey saying that at least 13% require intervention. And divorce rates in Kerala are high and is increasing. It is a divorce capital of India. And unemployment rate is high. National 6.1, our unemployment rate is 13.7. There might be different interpretations for that. At least we know that 36 lakh of people are registered in the employment exchange by government of Kerala's own accounts. And we have a paradox. We are a state with high morbidity, physical morbidity, but low mortality. Where does that leave us? We are living with more physical ailments. We are living with more disability. What about our quality of life then? We don't know that. So when there is high morbidity and low mortality, we're living longer at the mercy of interventions and medications, and that might contribute to the 22% of people in the suicide group arising out of the main reason being physical or other illness. And our women are more educated. If you look at the country, we top consistently in women education from primary to university level. So where does that leave us? We need to think about what are the conflicts. Our own studies in Thrissur show that 68% of the housewives are degree holders, and the men are less educated, but they are the breadwinners. So men are in control in a patriarchal society like ours, the cultural stereotypes, but women are more educated. So control versus knowledge can be, you could imagine the possibility of conflicts within the family. So another more broader views and notions we need to touch upon include, see, in Kerala, we could argue that because of more distribution of the wealth compared with other states. We have the idea of fairness, equality, and thinking about egalitarian kind of society. So in some sense, the individual in Kerala is more liberated. They're more aware of their rights. They're more aware of their own dreams. And they know that we can achieve the dreams, especially through education. That is one of the persistent themes in the families. Through education, you can achieve what others have achieved at the high end of the social ladder. But there is significant competition and unemployment, and all these show that there is a failure in the dream as well. There is a dream, there is a notion of equality, but there is also the miserable nature of our life where people feel failed because the competitive culture is leaving a lot of our people on, especially the lower education is low, social position is low, income is low. They feel as a failed group, failed generation, or a failed class. And there is a lot of social mistrust in Kerala, and there is a lack of trust in institutions. There is a failure of institutions. So the optimism in the society in terms of our social institutions to guide us, to change our future is low. And as I said earlier, there is the gender war. Always there is a gender war. There is a, between women and male and female in terms of equality. And then between high educated women and higher earning of men. That also creates tensions and conflicts. And as I said earlier, the deprivation in Kerala society often is the relative deprivation is high, and that is an invisible toxin. Lots of studies across the globe show that if you are a poor person, relatively poor person living in an affluent area, you would die early. You will have more heart disease. You will have more mental health problem. That community can have more suicide. So there are issues we need to consider, larger social issues, and look at our social case. We as a society is very much interested in what others are saying, what others are doing, and shame is as a pervasive toxin. And many of the time we see this in clinic as people who are feeling suicidal communicate ideas of shame in comparison with others. Social evaluation and shame is perhaps a factor to consider. And we as a society, with a lower population growth, we invest heavily in our next generation. And when we invest so heavily in our next of kin, next generation, everything about them becomes the powerful fuel for our life. That is the driving force. So it can help, it can also distort and destroy the next generation. If you are giving a life where success is measured not in outcomes, success is measured in the process, in negotiating with life. If you are not giving the mind tools, the social tools to navigate the complex social system, the children, the next generation, are likely to feel that they are a failure. They couldn't reach the expectations. We are not good enough. That is what in the clinic teenagers tell us always. We feel not good enough. We are not what they wanted us to be. So there is a heavy burden on the next generation because of the expectations are too high. Of course, the Kerala leads the number of people living outside. Migration is high. Migration brings inward lots of cultural exchanges. So we know how people are living in different parts of the world, and that also influences us in terms of what we want from life. That is also contributing to the friction within families and within the society. So what is the magnitude? For every suicide of the 8,556 people leave us every year, 20 to 30 seriously attempt. So we are talking about 1.6 lakhs of serious attempts on life every year. For every attempt, we calculate there will be at least 10 people, friends, family, colleagues, workmates, affected by that, seriously affected by that. To the extent that they suffer from sleeplessness, they suffer from intrusive images, they suffer from depression or anxiety. That counts at least 10 people for each suicide. We are having 16 lakh of affected people directly or indirectly because of suicide. So nearly 20% of our population is affected. But if you were going by this is by the official Crime Records Bureau statistics of 8,556 people dying by suicide. If we go by 6 to 9 times is probably the suicide rate, at least in Tamil Nadu. We could even imagine it is 2 to 3 times in Kerala. And then we are talking about maybe 25 lakhs of individuals are affected by suicide. So my focus today is to give a notion that it is a public health emergency. And what is meant by emergency? How do we define and condition is emergent? This definition by the public health agencies, it's a globally used definition, but we can disagree with that. Emergent when its health consequences, the timing, the size, and predictability have a potential to overwhelm the community capabilities. So my argument, my case here is to say that suicide, through the huge numbers affected by the magnitude and by the unpredictability of this outcome, it is actually overwhelming. It has been overwhelming. You can only say something is overwhelming if you have put something in place to help this situation. But we don't have a good system. We have a system, and it is already overwhelmed by this. And it is going to be overwhelmed more given our current scenario. And what needs to be done is a public health emergency preparedness. That is about the capability we think about in terms of how to prevent, how to protect people, how to respond to this social malady, how to recover people who are affected by that. These are the prevention, protection, respond, and recover strategies we need to have as a public health emergency preparedness. So the model, we need a public preparedness model. Because it is unpredictable, we can't rely heavily on the existing healthcare system because it's unpredictable. And nearly half, you might, some of the colleagues might disagree on that finding, but globally, 40 to 50% of the first attempters succeed in ending their life. So only the rest comes to attention, even if all those serious attempts, failed serious attempts, were getting the best mental health support in the world. 40 to 50% has already lost their life. So before any of these distress come to medical attention at this time, at this point, they are losing their lives. So we have to think beyond the healthcare system. And where are the first expressions? It is within the family, the friends, the colleagues, workmates. So we need to think about how the family, our work, culture, our institutions, we are working, organizations, employers, family, they need to be aware, they need to be skilled, they need to be prepared to address this issue. And we saw that from data we have, you can argue that, some psychiatrists would argue that 90% or 99% of who die by suicide has mental illness. I differ with them. And I would say that, okay, there might be 50 to 60%. Even if you were assessing those individuals on the day of their death, you will find only 50 or 60% having maybe depression or adjustment disorder. But a lot of suicide is about predicament. Sannigdhavastha, you can't decide what to do. The pain is too much, the guilt is too much, the shame is too much, the not good enough is too much, and you can't find a way out. That is the predicament in human life. And that is, we should not actually medicalize that. So that is my personal position, that not all mental health difficulties are should be in the realm of mental health practitioners alone. It is a social malady as well. And stigma prevents people from seeking help. That's an important issue. If we were to rely only on healthcare system, we will not get to these people because stigma is preventing people from seeking help. Even if we had universal healthcare, even if we had a universal healthcare that is free at the point of delivery, like in some of the European countries, 30 to 40, even up to 50% of suicide occur outside the mental health setup. So even if we had a universal healthcare free at the point of delivery to anybody and everybody, half of our suicide would still could be outside that network. So we need to have a public preparedness model. We know that most of the suicide can be prevented if we had an option, if that person had someone to talk, someone to say some kind words, someone to understand them, someone to validate their pain, someone to show some light. And that may not be rocket science, but that is a skill that we have to learn. That is not a skill that naturally we could have. We have to learn it, especially because it's a topic of a lot of stigma. And only 10%, people can disagree on that. At least in our, data, the national data, we have 10%. We can say that up to 50 or 60 might have mental illness, that adjustment disorders and depression included. So a public preparedness model alone is the way forward to prevent or reduce this magnitude of suicide in Kerala. And that is why we partnered with the University of Cambridge and our international collaborators in mind. We have put a public preparedness program, that is SPOT, Suicide Prevention Online Training. And this is a free course. This is a course that might take 6 to 8 hours to complete for most people. It is available in Malayalam and English. It is available, you can do it on your desktop or mobile. It is available in both languages, and it is a reflective learning. It is not just you are reading something, you are interacting with the content. And there are lots of exercises to do, a lot of reflection to do. If you're doing it in pairs, there are a lot of discussion you can have on why we have so much of suicide and how we can reduce it. And learn how to talk, how not to talk, what to say, what not to say, how to help, how not to help. All these are covered in detail in this course. And we wanted 8,000 and one more person. We put it as 8,000, one person to be trained in this month. At this point, my login details show that around 7,000 individuals from Kerala have joined the course and 4,000 has completed the course. And out of 7,000 amazing people who have joined the course, 4,000 has got the certificate. And this course generates automatically a certificate in your name, and it would be with the Cambridge and INMIND certified course. So please remember this, share the sport with others. And I will say that just one thing. What we have put in the course is a new model, a 5-step 5S model. I will say this just for, if you don't go to the sport, just remember these 5 steps. See, most of the time, even with the colleagues who are in distress and emotionally, in a very bad place, so we don't realize that. So we need to see something. So you will see things that you know. If you don't know, you will never see. You are blind to things that you don't know. So we have to see certain things, which the course will tell you what to see, what to look for, and say something. You have to say the right things at the right time. That is an art. That's a skill. That's a skill that we all can learn. And support. You need to offer practical support here and now. It is not theoretical. It's practical. What does support mean? What are the support you can give to your colleague if they are in that state? And signpost them to the services available. And most importantly, stay in touch. Show the person that you really care about that person. You really value that person's life. You think about them. That's so important. So see, say, support, signpost, stay in touch. These are the 5-step model we have introduced in this course. So my conclusions for this day is suicide in Kerala continue to remain high. It has been high for the last 50 years. We have been on the top of the chart for years, in decades. I have shown the data from the last 30 years, clearly demonstrating that. Only Andaman Nicobar Islands and Pondicherry, and at one time Sikkim, one time Tamil Nadu, one time Chhattisgarh has actually had more suicide than Kerala. The only state that has consistently held to the high rate is Kerala. It's a major public health problem. It is not a problem, for the mental health professionals to deal with. It is not a problem that we can put under the carpet. It is not a problem the policymakers and the politicians can actually, end it in silence. We do not have good quality data. We do not have robust mental health strategy for the state. And a large proportion of our population is affected, especially the people on the lower end of our social spectrum. We need a very comprehensive, multi-layered, multi-sectoral, robust strategy and a program for the future. We need to ask for a state suicide surveillance system. And IMA, as the leader of our profession, has always shown great leadership in many areas. I hope that this will motivate you as IMA leaders and as members to think about suicide and to bring this matter when World Mental Health Day is later coming, and it would be around investment in mental health. Each rupee our society invest in mental health will have huge returns. We saw that how much huge economic cost suicide is causing to our society. I will stop here and thank you, Dr. Joy Manjila, for inviting me. Thank you, Dr. Pawan, Gopikumar sir, everybody, Jain. Thank you very much. And I hope we could have some discussion if there is time for us to discuss. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Manoj, for your excellent talk and enlightening us about the suicide. Yes, it is a really public health hazard, not a problem. It's a public health hazard. Now, this questions are welcome. If there is any questions, are the chat box Pawan?
Chat box questions വന്നിട്ടില്ല.
Yeah. Questions ഇല്ല? Screen sharing ഒന്ന് disable ചെയ്യോ?
Yes.
Manoj?
Okay. Pawan?
Pawan?
ചെയ്യാം ഡിസേബിൾ ചെയ്യാം.